We are beautifully tracking. Nice technology. I haven't seen that before. Okay. There you are. I thought you were running away. Hi, how are you?
Good.
You guys have to take 10 notes. Yeah, it's hot.
What's your name?
Henrik.
Oh, Henrik.
Yes.
Henrik.
Henrik. Very good.
Oh my God! Look!
Oh my God!
Isn't it cool?
Yes.
What?
I'm famous.
It
Oh!
knows wherever the state.
Oh, you're on camera.
For some reason,
Johan,
it
look,
wants
you're
to
on
focus
camera.
on
Make
you.
a face. Winky face, winky face. Winky face. Where?
Definitely cool technology. And actually, we should split circle it around so it sees everybody.
Hi, Mickey.
You will say when I should go, all right, Julian? All right, we should get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're going to do a quick presentation on pesticides in agriculture. And my part is going to go really quickly. It's usually a much longer talk. And you won't have to take too many notes on my part. We looked at your worksheet, and Cecilia Garcia, the researcher from the USDA, her presentation is going to answer your questions a lot better than mine. All right, so you can kind of wait to where it's a two-part presentation. All right, and I think this guy doesn't work, so we're going to advance the slides like this. All right, so one of the messages we want to get across is that agriculture is very important to our society. 10,000 years ago, there was no agriculture. We had a lot fewer people. This would have been an enormous city here in this room. This would have been the whole tribal gathering for 50 miles. People were rare because there wasn't so much food and you had to catch it all, and it was dangerous. People figured out agriculture, and it changed our lives a lot. Down in that other picture, you can see how the population increased. And one of the things about agriculture is that one of the tricks of agriculture is we want to plant all the plants of the same kind next to each other so we can harvest them at the same time. It didn't make sense to put one artichoke plant, one lettuce plant, one strawberry plant, one Brussels sprouts and then another strawberry. No, it made sense to make whole fields of them. Okay, but the problem with uniform fields of crops is that they attract pests, and it also makes it easy for the pests. Okay, pests consume the food, all right? They consume our crops. And in the Bible, there were lots of stories of when many people starved. Starving means not just going hungry for a few days, it means not having food for weeks. Okay? And potentially many people dying. So we know this was a problem even in ancient times. Here's that, guys. You guys heard of the Iceman? That the mummy that was found in the glacier was melting, and the people found him and thought it was somebody that was murdered recently. But it wasn't. It turned out to be a guy that was 5,000 years old, and he was perfectly preserved. They could see everything he ate, all the things that had happened to him. And doctors examined him, and they figured out that he has actually gone through starvation so bad 3 times in his life that his vertebrae were shrunken. So they could tell that by looking at his spine that he had starved 3 times. When we look at all the mummies, like in Egypt, 1/3 of them have evidence of starvation. And that's pretty weird, because the mummies were made basically only the rich people. Only the rich people could afford to get all mummified. All right? And so even rich people starved back thousands of years ago. In Ireland, only 150 years ago, 1 million people died of starvation. They weren't just hungry, they died, they didn't have enough to eat. And 1.5 million people left Ireland. And Ireland still doesn't have as many people today as it did 150 years ago. That's how bad that famine was. The famine when people did not survive. Okay, and that was because, in this case, it was a fungus, but pests. Pests ruined their crops, and they did not have enough to eat. So one way to control pests is with poisons called pesticides. This morning I woke up, 7 o'clock, you could hear, and all from April to October, you can hear the pesticide planes on mornings when there's not very much wind, is when they are going to be applying pesticides to protect the crops here. So you can hear it, it's very common. Problem is that pesticides, in order to spray them to get the pest, a lot of times they drift to where they shouldn't be. So we have lots of problems with pesticide drift and lots of organisms that are dying from pesticides that aren't even the target organism. Okay, and they're actually hiding some of that information anyway. That's a more sophisticated topic. But another problem with pesticides is that they kill insects by poisoning their nerves. That's most of our pesticides, especially what we call organophosphates, poison their nerves, and the problem is we also have nerves. All right? So they are killing, they're affecting us, and they're the same way they affect the insects. The only good thing is that we are larger than the insects, so it takes a lot more pesticide to kill us or make us sick. On the other hand, we're learning a lot more about pesticides every year, and some of the very common ones, for example, this chlorpyrifos is very hazardous to humans, it turns out, as well as the environment. And I'm going to quickly go through this. Nerve poisons are especially dangerous at certain times of life. And that's one reason is that babies have a much smaller volume than their surface area, so that a very little amount of pesticide can make them sick. I'm going to skip over that. But the point is that both developmentally and because of their size, it's young animals, especially babies, that are sensitive to toxins. We do have some non-toxic alternatives, not very many. It takes a lot of research, a lot of scientists to work out what those are. Here's the famous one is Bacillus thuringiensis toxin, Bt toxin. That one is not hazardous to us at all, but it kills all caterpillars very nicely. Problem again, it does kill some non-target organisms. Butterflies like the monarch butterfly are susceptible to Bt toxin. So we still need pesticides, but how do we reduce the harm? So researchers like Cecilia Garcia are working very hard on alternatives to stop pests without harming people or the environment. And that includes here at the USDA, the Department of Agriculture Research Station in Salinas. And I'm going to turn it over now to Cecilia Garcia, a researcher from that institute. And here is the microphone, and that to track you.
Hello everyone, my name is Cecilia Garcia. I am a college student at CSUMB Monterey Bay, and I currently am doing research at USDA here in Salinas, which is like right across from like the street or so. And so I'll be presenting to you my research that I did over the summer, and I am still currently in contact with these people as well. So California, we're well known for growing different crops such as grapes, oranges, and almonds. And here in Salinas, if you look down, you can also see crops such as strawberries, lettuce crops, and even tomato crops. But like Professor Kibak said, is that when we have crops, you also have a lot of pests, and we need to be able to try to control the pests. Currently, right now, one of the biggest pests next. Okay. So currently, right now, one of the biggest pests here in California is the whiteflies. And the problem with the whiteflies is that when they tend to feed onto these crops, they often leave a sticky residue, which we call honeydew. And this sticky residue causes crops to grow more downward. And that means we as humans, we can't eat these crops anymore. Also, by feeding, they can transmit the viruses from one plant to another, causing the plants to become sick. And it's important to try to kill these whiteflies, because if we don't have any more crops, then what are you going to eat? There's nothing for us to eat, right? So that's why it's important to try to control these whiteflies. The problem is that we are currently trying to kill these whiteflies using pesticides. But pesticides tend to have negative side effects, such as they are bad for the environment, they also cause human health effects, and when they are sprayed onto the plants, they kill every other insect as well, even butterflies that are just nice to look at during the summer day. Next. So my question for this research topic was, how can we kill these whiteflies without causing harm to humans or to the environment? So, and the solution that we came up with is RNA interference. So everybody here has DNA, which is kind of like instructions for your body to make you who you are, essentially. But in order for the DNA to make the final product, it has to go through different sets of steps to achieve that final product, such as brown eyes or black hair or blonde hair, for example. And so, but if one of these steps is actually blocked with, then you can't get your final product that we need to function as humans, or that a dog needs to function as a dog. So what my research is, we're essentially introducing another instruction to the white fly's body to try to stop this protein from being created. Next. And the way that before I get into my project, some positive things about using this new method is that they are only specific to white flies because the instructions that we give them are only made for white flies. So you don't have to worry about if this is going to affect you, your dog, or an elephant somewhere out in Africa, let's say. It is also environmentally friendly because we aren't using any chemicals that are going to harm the plants or that are going to go into the air. And because it is target specific, that means humans won't be affected by this. Not even if there's stuff that are left onto the plants and we eat it, it's not going to cause us any effect to us. So the way that we did it is we mixed RNA, which is instructions. We mixed that with water and sugar. We then sprayed it onto some tomato leaves because that's the plant that we use for our experiment. We sprayed that onto the leaves, and then we added 20 adult white flies onto these. And then we covered it with vinyl to make sure that they didn't escape out into the field or so. After that, we left it for 11 days, and then I would go in and collect how many white flies actually died from this. And so, as you can see from the graph in the next PowerPoint, here are the different labels for our instructions. Here are the percent of the mortality rate of the white flies. And we can see over the time course, these white flies died. And we can see that the instructions that we labeled P had the highest effect with a 20% mortality rate by the end of the 11th day. So what does this actually mean for us? This means that using this new method, we can actually kill white flies. Even though it's only 20% compared to pesticides that kill white flies like 90% of the time, we need to try to continue doing research on this so that we can increase the effectiveness so that we can use this new method instead of using pesticides that are harmful for everybody here. And that's the end of my project. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. So, how do pesticides affect humans' daily life? Daily life. So the thing with pesticides is that it's not something that's going to affect you right away. It's something that's going to keep occurring. For example, like if you're around pesticides too much, it can cause you to have breathing problems. That's one of the side effects of pesticides. So it's not something, it's not a short term, it's a long term effect that's going to cause you human health. Yes?
Does it give you asthma?
Does what? Can you repeat?
Like, what do I ask when you said it was a long-term effect, does it also give you asthma?
Does it cure asthma?
No.
Does it give you asthma?
Oh,
When you're exposed to it long term.
oh, okay. So the question was, when you're exposed to it long term, does it give you asthma? To that, I'm not sure because I'm not looking at that aspect of the experiment.
So I can help a little bit with that. Your body has a lot of defenses against outside things. Pesticides that you're inhaling in some of your systems through the defenses are not as good. So particularly one of them has to do with your body responds to chemicals and other organisms coming in by secreting proteases, the things that chew up those foreign things. And if you have pesticides, those things don't work as well. So you end up actually damaging your lungs instead of keeping them clear. So that's a common thing. The bigger one is actually nerve damage over long periods of time. That's a
someone from the back. Oh, I.
How is this research important to alcohol medicine?
How is this research important to this middle school? Well, because you guys are exposed to this pesticide. As you can see, there's, well, not right here, but like around the school, there's fields that are being sprayed with the pesticides, and that can actually affect your health. Like Henrik was saying, because you guys are at a younger age, you guys have more probability of being affected than as an adult. Yes? I wouldn't say so that pesticides can kill people. There you go. They can kill people.
There's certain pesticides. Have heard of methyl bromide? Okay. Methyl bromide is what they put underneath the plastic on the strawberry fields. Have you seen that plastic that they go on? They use the plastic under there. There's a gas of methyl bromide. That methyl bromide can definitely kill people if you are, for example, in a closed space. When I used to work at the Department of Food and Agriculture, 10 farm workers were killed by methyl bromide. I wrote the memo saying in 1979 we need to ban methyl bromide because it's killing people. The answer to that was they put tear gas in with the methyl bromide so workers could smell it when they walk into the fumigant shed and they start tearing up. They know okay, something bad in here. Because methyl bromide cannot smell it. But it will most definitely kill you.
Yes. How does what? How does pesticides look like?
She wants me to repeat. I've been asked to repeat what I just said. Can pesticides kill you? Yes, there are definitely certain types of pesticides that can kill you. Most of the organophosphates, if they are in high enough concentration, will kill you very quickly. Some of them are very similar to something we call nerve gas. But the one I worked with was methyl bromide. Methyl bromide is a fumigant that's applied underneath plastic in strawberry fields. If you get exposed to that by walking into a shed that is fumigating oranges because you want to ship them overseas, you will die. Okay? And so what they did after 10 people died from walking into those sheds was begin to mix the methyl bromide with tear gas. Tear gas is what they shoot at the rioter. You know, people who are protesting and rioting, they'll throw tear gas, make them cry. Okay, well, they mix that with a methyl bromide, it's called chloropicrin, and they now can smell, at least when you walk into a shed and you start to cry, you know, I got to get out of this shed because there's methyl bromide in here. Yes?
Yes, they can.
So the question was?
Can pesticides kill birds and other animals? And yes, they can.
They all have nerves that can die.
Yes. And to her question, she said, how do pesticides look like? And so pesticides, the common form of pesticides is that they're sprayed. So you can just like imagine a like water bottle being sprayed, kind of like that. If you want to pick a student. Yeah. Yeah. How long have we been studying pesticides? I've been doing this work for about a year and a half, maybe. Henrik?
I actually studied pesticide for about 20 years. I don't do it anymore, but yes, I studied it for a long time. So the people apply pesticides. Okay, the question was how many times do people apply pesticides to the field? That's a really good question. Something like methyl bromide, it's once a year before the crop is planted. Something else like parathion, methylchlorpyrifos, something like that, that can be applied in artichokes, for example, 12 times a year. It depends on how much of the pest is there. They don't want to spray unless there's a pest because the pesticide costs money. You have to have a special pilot that can fly the plane or a spray rig, etc. So that's expensive to put out pesticides. But some pesticides get put out a lot, up to 12 times in a year. Let's take a question further back. Yes, there's a question. So are there pesticides that actually help the earth? Well, so there are pesticides that help us by protecting our food from being completely eaten and ruined, either because it becomes moldy from honeydew or because the locusts just come and eat it or something like that. But most pesticides are actually poisons, and they right now are not really helping the earth as a whole. Yes, question. That's a Sicilian. There you go.
To my research,
Did
I find the answer that I was looking for in my research? The thing is, we kind of did. Well, the big thing about this research is that we do know that this new method that we're trying to apply to the website did work. But we need to try to redo this research so that we can make sure that 100% will kill the website instead of just 20% that will kill the website.
Okay. So let's get a question from someone who didn't ask one before. Yes? So how many humans are killed by pesticides every year? So that I cannot answer because your question involves the whole world. There are people that die from a lot of poisonings in other countries. There was a terrible one in India where about 5,000 people were killed. But equally, I can't answer the question because many of these pesticides, as Cecilia said, it's a long-term exposure. It's overall, if you die because you crashed the car, because your nerves have gradually become damaged. So it's a very tough question to ask. But if you're asking about how many people in the United States are killed directly by pesticides, like from 1 hour to the next, that's very few, fortunately, because we have a lot of safety rules. But many, many, many people may be getting sick, having long-term chronic illnesses as a result of pesticides. Yes?
Are white flies normal to this area?
So are white flies normal to this area? As long as many until you make crops.
The question was, are white flies common in this area? As of right now, they are because they've been here and they're targeting our crops. But I don't know if they came from other places or not. I know they are actually seen in other places, such as in Africa. There are also pests in Africa there, and it's much harder in Africa there because they don't have as much as crop growth availability as we do. That's why we're also trying to work in partner with Africa to try to find a solution to this.
Yes, he has a question. I don't think he has.
If a person has asthma, will it get worse if he is exposed to asthma?
So yes, the question was, if a person has asthma, will it get worse if you're exposed to pesticide? And so I'm one of those people that has asthma, and mine gets worse, but it's most likely for the things that they're mixing the pesticide with. Because they also mix the pesticide with a little bit of sticky oil so that it will stick to the plant so that the insect will eat it. And those are called adjuvants. And one of those adjuvants I know that I'm very sensitive to, so my asthma gets worse when I'm around it.
Yes.
Can methyl bromide kill animals?
Yes. Can methyl bromide kill animals? The main reason that methyl bromide is put onto the plastic for strawberry fields is to kill lots of a small worm called nematodes. It also kills fungi. Methyl bromide is what we call a biocide. It kills everything that lives. There's nothing that is resistant to methyl bromide. Things like parathion, chlorpyrifos, the things that the spray planes are putting out, they only kill animals with nerves. Those are nerve poisons. They will not really kill the fungi or the plants.
This last question.
One last question. Okay, what do pesticides do to the ecosystem? So there's two broad things that they do. One is that they harm what we call non-target species. So that's what the organophosphates can do in the Bacillus thuringiensis toxin. They can drift out and they can kill or sicken honeybees, things that you don't want to make sick. But the other bad thing that they can do in the environment is something you're probably learning about in 8th grade, maybe 9th grade. It's called bioaccumulation. So the types of pesticides that don't get broken down right away and they kind of accumulate in your fat, those can be a big issue. And there's actually some horrible papers, some horrible scientific reports about killer whale babies. Basically, all the firstborn killer whale babies die because their mother's milk is filled with pesticides. So the mother has to sort of wash out all the pesticides in her milk, and then the second, third, and fourth babies survive, but the first babies don't. That's an example of bioaccumulation. And I think you guys have to get back to class now because you need about 10 minutes to get all your stuff.